This podcast is rated IS for incredibly silly and definitely contains bad words, bad jokes, and other bad content that should not be heard by anyone, least of all children. Or maybe it should be. We don't know. We're still not their parents. You're listening to the Starforge podcast with Scya and Mal, two nerdy humans who still have a lot to say about Star Wars: The Old Republic and all its features. Rest assured, the podcast is, as always, working as intended. This is episode 40. Let's listen. The sound effects of Star Wars: The Old Republic. Hello, SWTOR players. I am the Mal.
And I'm Scya.
And we are so excited to have you here today. In our last episode, we talked about music, and it was so awesome. I was so into it. And this week, we're going to talk about something that I am perhaps even more into than music. And that is... I can't hear you.
Oh, it's okay. I was just very quietly saying pew, 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 pew. It wasn't quite as epic as yours, but we will be talking about sound effects today. Although they're generally considered more of a background thing than the beautifully orchestrated music of Star Wars: The Old Republic, they are still incredibly important.
Right? You don't think about it. But if they were gone. You know, I read an article the other day about somebody, and it was their job in movies to go back to the scenes and add in little natural things.
Yeah.
Right, like someone wearing tights, crossing their legs, like the sound of the tights scraping, because you can't pick it up with the microphones. You have to add it later. But if it didn't have those things, it wouldn't sound natural at all. And the same is true in games.
Can you imagine you're like recording a scene with the lady walking in tights and you're like, does she have a thigh gap or not? I got to put that in. You got to check. It's very important.
She's just a very quiet skeleton. Nothing touches or rubs or moves.
But when you don't have these things, it feels otherworldly. It kind of feels wrong. And when they're too strong, like when they become foreground noise instead of background noise, it becomes noticeable and it kind of takes you out of that immersive moment. And that absolutely applies to games as well, especially in games where we use those sound effects not only to create a immersive setting, but we also use them to play.
Yeah, we do. Oh, real quick before we start, one thing that you can't use to play in Group Finder, apparently, is loadouts. Scya, I didn't know this was a thing. I joined a Group Finder group, and they told me that they needed me to be a healer. Okay,
yeah,
fine.
You gotta be a healer beforehand. Oh, it makes me so angry. Do you want this to be another rant episode? Because I will make it a rant episode right here with sound effects. This is the sound of me punching the Group Finder. It's not a very good punch. I'm kind of like 100 pounds. Okay, like give me a break. But so when you queue up in the Group Finder, you have the option to say, yes, I can be a healer, or yes, I can be a DPS. But now that we have whatever happened in 7.0, you can't actually switch once you've been accepted to a group.
Yeah. So they told me to come as a healer. So I had to respec from DPS to a healer with my loadout. Pretty simple. And then we got there and they were like, oh, no, you're DPSing. So I'm like, all right, I'll just swap my okay, I'll do it manually. Okay, I'll go outside and then I was like, it won't let me change my loadout.
The whole concept was
I just left.
They didn't want people queuing up as a healer or tank, but they're actually damaged. But then it causes so much of these kinds of issues that it wasn't even worth it to add that restriction, I think.
Why can't you respec when you're in there?
I don't know, man.
This is a freaking mystery. So how do we make them make the Group Finder let me do a loadout? Because to me, that is just asinine.
Well, maybe you could make some funny noises at it and it'll do what you tell it to.
I guess I could, but in the meantime, we're just going to have to stick to disappointing other people. All right, so in terms of sound effects, this is the number one thing that I love about Operations and Flashpoints. It's a little bit more expansive for me, you know, because I love the one-liners. That's more of voiceover work, but it is sound. I hear it in my ears, so I love it. There are so many good sound cues in group content. It isn't even funny. I've been listening to these sound effects for so long. When it's gone, I notice immediately. I think I have unbound ctrl+s on every character I have because I press it by accident and then I'm like, oh no, oh God, I gotta fix this quick.
I didn't realize how much the content ties into the sound for me for being able to play my character both in their rotation and their spec, but also to be able to fight other enemies. So for example, I took a group into Temple of Sacrifice the other day, and we actually died on the final boss because there's some grenades that explode and everyone was kind of everywhere, and 16 people died at the same time. It was kind of a wonderful massacre. And I was trying to tell them, like, how do you know you have these grenades on you? How do I personally know? I don't look at the screen because I hear the sound. So I'm like, you can look on your screen. There's a little icon of a grenade. It's very small. Or you can hear a sound that goes like this. Joink, 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 joink. And that's it for me. That's what I need to know in a lot of the fights. We talked about in previous episodes how a lot of these bosses have barks. They are little voice lines that tell you, like, something about my pets are legion. You know, the enemy's pets are going to show up, right? But not all of them do. Some of them just have these little sound bites that let you know what's going on.
One of the ones that I love and I really rely on is in Nightmare TFB, the voice cues on the Dread Guard. For some period of time, I don't know why, but they were broken.
Borked, yeah.
So what I know is I go in there and I'm DPSing high rad until I hear, your struggle only prolongs the pain. And then I know to swap to Cyphus to get his shield down, to interrupt him, to go back to high rad. And that voice line never happened. So I was just standing there like, puff, 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 puffing away on high rad. And then I was like, ow, 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 why am I dying? Oh my God. He never did the line and I never got off him.
I remember that. So those sound cues going missing or even just being off can really hurt you if you are used to them. So I know you like the ones in one of the other operations too.
I love the sound effects that make you feel like, here you are locked in. A lot of them, the rooms, they lock you out when you start the fight.
Like the crunching door sound? Yeah.
Some of the doors just have great sound effects. When you start that Dreadguard fight, you hear the doors go whoosh, and they slam shut. There's also one in Ravagers when you start Sparky, and that door is great because the first time we did it, actually several of us were crushed to death as the door slammed downward and shut. It's just that noise is so great. It makes you feel like you are here, you were locked in here, and the only way out is to win.
I'm a big fan of all the smashing sounds. So we're talking about Terror from Beyond. At the very end, there's these giant tentacles that slap the ground and you can hear it. It's a very you can hear that. Not only can you see it. And then there's also on Ravagers when you're in that big ship. You're in a very, very tiny room and there's a big Wookiee going around smashing things. And there's all kinds of sounds in that room. And all of them just really, really help that claustrophobic atmosphere of being stuck in an engine room with a Wookiee.
Right. And I love in TFB on the Writhing Horror, to get in the red puddle. Not when it spawns, but when it goes
yeah.
Squish. Wait for the babies to leave to exit, then get in the puddle. Oh, that's gross. I grossed myself out. Can you tell I love TFB? I love TFB. I love the Dread Ops, but I really, really love TFB too. And you can't even get me started on all the sound effects in Operator 9.
Operator 9.
We raided with someone. Her name was Hibia. She loved it when we would go into Operator 9. She loved that boss, which went something like this. Wop, wop, wop. Operator response timed out. Please repeat. Request help me. Invalid query.
There's at the end of the fight, when you're doing the Xeno Analyst during the Gree event, the temporary event, at the end of the fight, he goes into kind of a rampage mode. He'll just pick random people and try and annihilate them. And he's like, and that person's either dead or alive at the end. But you heard the sound. Someone got targeted and got hit with that attack. So fun. What else is there out there?
I like the end of Cephas. Even the Cephas fight in TFB has some great sound effects with the lasers blast and the towers breaking. And at the end, it's the end because it gets really big, and then you hear that boom, boom, boom. The bombs are coming. The fight's gotta end. Hurry, hurry.
I think this also, we're talking about disappointing other people. I think I would be really disappointed if I went into PvP without the sounds.
Mm.
I heard, we were talking about last time how some people turn off the music, but they probably turn off the sounds too. How do they know when things are happening? How do they know when turrets are getting captured? How do they know when there's enemies nearby? I guess they look with their eyes. Disgusting.
Maybe. I mean, it's an interesting case in accessibility also, because if you are deaf completely or hard of hearing, that you're missing out on this
Right,
sort
you
of.
have no access to
Yeah,
these.
some of them I think run the voice lines in the chat box. I guess, you could look
Right,
for
you
that,
could pull
but
it up, yeah.
props to anybody who plays this game and they do not have use of their hearing because I could not do it. You are super humans.
You'd have to be way more on top of watching the environment around
Mhm.
you. So, like, we're waiting for those ads to show up. We listen for the audio cue. You'd have to, like, physically look for them. And second, you'd have to be paying way more attention to your buffs and debuffs than the average
Mhm.
player.
Right. I mean, I feel like I could talk about this all day. I don't PvP a lot. So what are your favorite PvP sounds?
I don't know if it's a specific sound, but I really like the sound when you're like far away from the battle and you start getting closer, it starts getting louder and louder and
Oh.
louder. And like when you reach the center, it's just this
Yeah.
cacophony of like lightning and punching sounds and like it's just so noisy that you can't at that point when there's like four versus four in the center, and if there's anything more than that, you can't even tell the sounds apart anymore at that point. It's just this very noisy battle.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything in particular flashpoints that I really enjoy the sound of.
I think those are really a case of if the sounds were missing, we would notice. Something I really noticed was when I was testing out the newest operation that we've been talking a lot about, R4, on the test server. They had, I think, maybe the music and maybe the voice lines, but they did not have the Foley artist effects. They didn't
Mm.
have the sound effects. And so you're at this final cutscene and the ship is shaking and there's like asteroids in the background and there's this giant robot boss and electricity and stuff like that, and there's no sounds, and it was so bizarre. It actually, I didn't know if it was just unfinished or not, but I made sure to like type like this feels very unfinished without the Foley sounds in case they like just oopsie missed it along the
No,
way.
shh. It takes place in the library.
No sounds,
Shh.
everybody. Be quiet.
The librarian comes down and tells you, be quiet.
Lady, is the librarian Lady Dominique?
That's why she
She can
chases
swipe my
you. You're in my
library card any
library,
day.
wrecking my generators. All your books are late. Don't even get me started on the condition you returned them to me in.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I could do this all day. I'm a complete audiophile. I love the sound effects. I should give up my voiceover dreams and just go into sound mixing or something. I really love it. I'm just going to sit in my house like you told me that one time, breaking a refrigerator to make my own sound effects to then sell on the sound effects market.
You heard it here, folks. We're moving over to Foley
Yeah.
Artists. I'm just going to be a collector of sounds.
The Starforge Foley Collection.
So both of us really enjoy. It's very fun because a lot of Foley artists and sound effects artists are very active on Twitter. I don't know how this happened. I think it's just because they're all a bunch of tech nerds. And so naturally they all kind of gravitate to being social online. What's really nice is they talk to each other a lot. It's a very supportive community. It sounds like it's hard to break into, like it's hard to find your first job if that's the industry you're interested in. But once you do, it's a very nice community that you can access.
That's awesome. It's nice to share, right? Because sometimes you hear something. Sometimes even I hear things and I'm like, God, that's a great noise. It must be nice to tell you, like, oh my God, the other day someone backed their car into a trash can and it made the best crunch.
Were you like, I wish I had recorded that?
Yes. Oh, so that's awesome. And, we love to hear from people what you love to hear, what some of your favorite
Oh,
sound
yeah.
effects and things in Flashpoints are.
Flashpoints, operations, your favorite character abilities. I think one of the most well-known sound effects in Star Wars is the the TIE fighters. Mal is laughing so hard she's dying a little bit. I'm sorry. I tried my best. I tried my best.
She held her nose and went, "Ree." I was like, oh man, this is a creature, a planet, a drink.
The TIE fighter, and it's like a mix. It's a mix of different.
Yeah.
A mix of different like
Mhm.
creatures in real life. that they put together to do that. So they would have had to do that for all the different like ships in Star Wars too.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about some of that next because this was more of the sound effects and the group content that we really love.
I had to take a billion ships to go into group content. I just went to Terral 5. I took a shuttle.
You did. But this one we're going to be flying solo. So, some of my favorite things to hear when I'm playing different character classes are the skills and overall the more typical video game noises that you find. Like you'll get a script grunt 1, grunt 2, long hit, short hit, death scream 1, death scream 2, stuff like that. It's really true, and it's interesting to try to make all of those different and unique. You sit here all day and sometimes one will come to me and I'll be like, ugh, like, okay, I've got to file that away for later. I personally have played a Sage Healer so long. Sometimes I know I'm taking damage even if my attention is elsewhere because I'm sitting here and then I hear, and I know that something's shooting me. I hear that. And all the death screams in this game, wow! It is awesome. Do you know when you're taking damage because you're making noise?
Well, one thing that I noticed when I first started playing my character was not necessarily her taking damage, but the crits. When your character does something specific and gets lucky, they make a very specific noise. For the Vanguard Trooper, it sounds like she's murdering something. She's like, "Ah!" And everybody else hears this too. So my teammates would occasionally say, "Be like, could you stop your character from screaming for like 5 seconds?" And I'm like, "Sorry, I'm a big, powerful Vanguard tank. You don't like it, you go home."
That's really funny. I've never noticed my Sage DPS, going Hulk mode when I...
That's because she's not Jennifer Hale,
yeah,
so
that's
who cares?
true. Yeah, no. God,
There is a favorite one, though, that everybody has.
it has to be the Operative Laugh. You love it or you hate it. You love it if you're on one, and you hate to hear it if you're in PvP because
Right, they got a crit.
one of those little fuckers is behind you, filling you full of knives, and then rolling away. Whoosh, 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 and you got 3 knives stuck in you. Oh, Scya, what else do you like before I talk all day?
I'm going to talk about something people didn't like. So the Vanguard tank, it's not necessarily the most iconic class in the game or anything like that compared to the Jedi or like the Operative. But they had one ability that was a key ability to their class, and that was called High Impact Bolt. It's a very powerful ability. It does a lot of damage. It's very important to your whole rotation and stuff like that, so you use it quite a bit. But it made such a little pea shooter sound. It was like, pew, little pew, pew. And everybody noticed, like, why does this sound like such a pathetic little sound? That they actually, after the game came out, they changed the sound. It's not it doesn't sound like it's a Death Star or anything right now, but it does have a more oomph to it. It feels like you built up to being able to use it now, and it was worth using. So it's interesting because especially for players who are newer, who maybe don't know the actual numbers behind their attacks, that attack probably felt very weak. Like, why would I even use this? It barely seems to do anything. So the sound effects can affect your perception of your abilities, even if it's not correct. So they have to get that right as well. There is some abilities that really get it right, though.
Oh, the Force Choke. I don't know, that might be better than the Operative Laugh. I think the Force Choke is just 10 out of 10. Yes, it's the crunchy noise along with the choking. It is so satisfying when you're doing that. You feel so powerful and Sithy. It is awesome. The lightning, also classic. But my God, there's so much of it, and it all sounds so similar. Sometimes I get a little sick of it.
I heard you did have a song about the mirror class of that, which is one of my favorite classes to play for the visuals, but the audio is important too.
Oh my gosh. Sarah and I had a joke. We have a joke that when you're doing TK, you're just doing big puffs of air and rocks. So I wrote her a song because she loves my songs. So I hope you like it too.
Go?
It goes like this. Let it blow, let it blow, Let your puffs of air just flow, let it blow. Let it blow, turbulence is on the go. Pink screamy face, gust and TK wave. Weakened mind ticks on. Range doesn't bother me anyway.
Thank you. Thank you for this tribute to the telekinetic sage, one of the best classes in the game.
You're welcome.
But if we're talking about blowing puffs of air, there's another sound that I like that's a little more up close and personal. We mentioned the operative's little but we didn't talk about how good it sounds to stab people. So the other classes in the game, they use their guns, they use their lightsabers, they use their little poof, 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 poof of air. But the operative has these knives, and it's like shink, 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 shink. And the operative, like, they have this wonderful ability where you pull out these two knives and you just absolutely like decimate your enemy with this attack, especially in concealment. And I love it. I love hearing that sound. It's a very, very different set of sounds. And it's mirror Mr. Punchy Guy. Who's Mr. Punchy Guy?
That is so satisfying. It was awesome.
Is that Ruffian? I always forget which one that is.
Bam used to take that and he would be like, come catch these hands. Whoopsh, whoopsh, whoopsh.
I laugh so hard every time I hear that sound. That's the one that fits in the least in the Star Wars universe to me, but I don't care. When I'm doing group content and I hear that, I'm just like, we have a Ruffian in here.
Oh my gosh. So speaking of weapons, okay, story time. Back in 6.0, we were doing a fun run, and Merlia, the lovely Merlia, the whip cracker of remnants of hope and vestige of despair, I think. Merlia. She was on a sniper. We were doing gods, I think, and we're doing the raid. And I stopped at one point because I was laughing and I said, whose gun sounds like popcorn popping? And she was like, that's me.
That used to be such an important discussion back in the day.
It was like, pop, 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 pop.
It used to be if your friend had a gun that didn't make a good sound, you would absolutely give them grief for like half an hour until they got shamed and eventually changed it out. Because there's like pew, 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 and there's like one that sounds like broken glass, and there's one that sounds like a little pea shooter. Like I hope that one day you get the customization where you have the weapon tunings and the color crystal now. I hope one day the sound slot is its own slot separate from the rest. But
that would be amazing.
I have no idea if that's something that they'll ever be able to do, but it is important part of your enjoyment of your character. Does my basic attacks sound good?
Well, listen, no joke. 2 weeks ago, she messaged me and she said, Mal, my popcorn rifle, it doesn't sound like popcorn anymore.
What'd she do? How'd she change it?
She didn't. I think they changed it. She said it was the Tayfield CA41-S sniper rifle.
Oh.
And she said now it sounds like a regular old gun.
Interesting. Okay.
So if anyone's hearing this, please put that rifle back to sounding like popcorn.
So we've got the weapon sounds, and we've got these really aggressive sounds like the punching and the knives and the lightning, but that's not the only sounds in the game. What else do we got that's a little quieter?
The ones I really like are the sounds of your feet when you run over different surfaces.
Yes.
Yeah, like floor versus rug versus grass versus sand.
On my Varactile. I love running over the different. No. He makes a sound, but his feet do too on the metal and the grass. And it's like tick, 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 tick.
I love the Varactyls. I like just the gentle noises you don't really think about, but that if they were gone, you would really miss them. Like every time you click something or every time you log in.
Right. Those are important. Those I need in my life to know I clicked it correctly.
Right. And when you're clicking things, when you're selling something, ding, when you're clicking things.
It's probably just as important as the actual UI, right? The way the UI looks. Because you could just have a sound like click, click. You know, it doesn't have to be anything fantastic, but it helps set that atmosphere of this is what the Old Republic looks and feels like. The sound is there.
Right. And we can't leave this conversation without talking about all the different speeder noises.
Yeah, there's so many.
So
There's
many.
so many.
So many people use speeders because of the noise they make, and I have some that I throw away because the noise they make is so terrible. I'm like, I don't want to ride on this speeder.
I have a tendency to use the animal mount, so they all kind of make that
Mhm.
clip clop sound, but I love it. I love it so much. Some of them
Yeah,
are really noisy though. They have like that always on kind of sound even when you're not moving.
yeah. There's one speeder, I forget, I think it's one of the free ones. It just makes God, when you drive it, it's like, "Prew, prew, 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 prew." I'm like, "This car is very
Yes, I know exactly
noisy,
which one you're talking
and
about every time you rotate.
I don't wanna drive this anymore." I also like that log when you get on it, it's like, "Ding, ding," like you're on, like, a little Scooty
Yes.
Puff Junior
Yes.
for the Futurama fans out there.
And these are all different types of items that make noises, but your actual character, their abilities, some of them make these very quiet sounds. For example, like I know you like the Guardian.
I really like the subtlety of how some of the cooldowns, like the cooldowns, it's not really an action. You're not choking. You're not, you're not doing a move. You're not doing lightning or powers. You're doing a cooldown. But I really love just the gentle, clean, shh, like stuff is happening.
And for me, because I'm kind of a not as good of a player, those sounds are still really important for me when I'm playing solo as well. I often struggle like, is my cooldown up? I'm mashing my button. Did I actually use my ability or not? Once I've heard the sound, I know for sure it went off and I can move on to whatever else it is I need to do. I don't need to keep button mashing there. And that goes for like a lot of my buffs as well. I can hear them running on my character. One of the most notable ones I know of is when you're playing, I believe it's the commando, especially the healer, you just kind of want to build up these stacks. And once you have enough stacks, it plays a sound. And the marauder and the sentinel are the same way too. You get set on like fire, so it's very visual as well, like blue fire, red fire, but you can also hear it happen as well, and then you know you're ready to go.
Yeah, speaking of commandos and mercs, I mean, also, who doesn't love a good mortar volley or death from above? It's amazing. So, speaking of commandos, I've been taking mine out and about more recently, and I'll tell you one place I've taken them. Space bar, please. Space bar, please. Space bar, please. So today, we are going to take a look at the Flashpoint Aethys. In my opinion, I find this one to be very immersive, full of lore, and one of the better designed Flashpoints. So, Scya, take us to the Republic side of things.
I love this one. I'm such a sucker for ancient Sith artifacts and Sith tombs and stuff like that. Even with my character being a Republic trooper, my main and most beloved character, I want to go to Korriban. I want to go to Elam. I want to go all these places where the ancient Sith kicked the bucket and got buried. And Aethys is such a atmospheric area. There's Sith ghosts there. There's tombs. There's dead things. There's curses. There's floating fire that wants to eat your face. How can you get much better than that?
Well, you can't. So, set the scene for us so we can take the people there.
Satele Shan is back again, blowing up our holophone, and apparently the Jedi Council has felt a powerful dark side presence out there, and me, myself, and I need to go destroy it. I guess I could bring some friends. Apparently, an archaeological team was digging stuff up on Aethys, and they disturbed something, and now there's a huge dark side disturbance.
So, if it's that bad, shouldn't the Jedi Council go? I asked Satele, and she says, no, they're very busy. Oh, okay. I feel like I did a whole rant one time about people who are too busy to do important things. But fine, whatever. We'll do it. We'll go.
I need the XP. But wait, there's more. Darth Malgus is apparently headed there as well. Darth Malgus? New phone. Who dis? Oh my god, I love so much. You can ask who is Darth Malgus in every single Flashpoint we have played so far. And each time I'm like, yes, that is the correct dialogue option for me.
And Satele says, he's a very bad person and that's all you need to know. Oh, okay, geez. Like I'm 5 years old. Okay. So then what do we do?
Take a shuttle and gather all the Sith relics so we can study and contain them. Shoo, shoo.
However, On the Imperial side, let's take a look at what's going on here. So on the
wait,
side,
I didn't get to play Imperial side. Is there like some good dirt on that side this time?
I'm going to give you the scoop. I was on a Sith warrior, and Darth Malgus calls me up and says that he is happy to see me, and he acknowledges that I have seen a lot of shit in my day, but that if I'm not willing to face the darkness again, to pack my bags, and he will forget my existence. Whoa!
I like how Satila's
What?
like, you're 5 years old, and Darth Malgus is like, do my bidding or no longer be at my behest.
What is going on?
So does he just like kind of continue and pretend like he didn't insult you mortally?
Yes.
What do you say?
He just continues on.
And he says that 1,000 years ago, Aethys was the home base of Vodal Kresh, who was the Sith alchemist. Kresh is actually a name from previous Star Wars lore. If you wanted to go do some digging, you can learn a little more about who his ancestor might be. Apparently, he was also a little crazy, a little bit, and bred a race of slaves devoted to him and his glory.
Yikes.
He was also apparently hungry for power and very spiteful. When he died, the Emperor shut the doors on Aethys, and everyone was forbidden to travel there.
So the Emperor wants nothing to do with this dude and this planet. How bad must he have been? Holy shit, that is so messed up. Even the Sith are like, nah, dude, can't party this weekend. I have to wash my cape. Vote all crash. Catch you next time, though.
And because, Mal, you're such a smart little Sith, though, you know that something's up. Malgus tells you that 2 days ago, they picked up a signal from Aethys, and it was none other than... dun, dun, dun. Those Republic archaeologists.
And then Malgus says that something's now happening down on the planet, and he isn't sure if it's the idiot explorers. So funny, so much shade, or something to do with Vodal, but either way, it's not good, and you need to go put a stop to it.
He doesn't want the Republic to party hard, only the Empire at their own pace, though. You know, maybe in 10,000 years or so. So the spin that each side puts on it's just fascinating. The Republic is essentially trying to cover up a massive foobar because until the Republic got to Aethys, everything was just fine. It was quiet. What were they even doing down there in the first place?
Maybe they were looking for another space station that chucks asteroids into planets that they lost.
You know, it happens pretty often. So after that, Malgus then directs you to head down to the planet, kill anything you come across there, and then take any of the records and recipes or whatever Vodal wrote down back with you and off of the planet. I heard he has a really solid quiche recipe. Take that if you find it.
Yummy, yummy.
So you land on Aethys. And oh my God, I could talk about the atmosphere of this planet for like 6 hours. I'm going to calm down because I already went over it a lot. But just you go into these tombs, you get to go down this really cool elevator, and you can slice one of the elevators and ride down gently, or just, jump down to your doom if you're playing with new people. I love watching them fall to their death. This has really become part of my play style, is enjoying watching other people die by accident. And when you land at the bottom, you hear a distress signal from the archaeology team that says, if you can hear this, most of us are already dead.
Oh, not a good message to hear right off the top. So, but if no one has archaeology to decipher the doors later and unlock them, it's time to just let that message roll off your back, grab a pack of explosives, and move on. So, we move our way through the tombs. First boss we meet, one, Professor Learsha. And I just met her, but she seems like she's looked better. And the same goes for her friends here. So we mop her like the professionals we are, and then as she dies, she reveals that he has been waiting 1,000 years. What is with people waiting around in places in SWTOR for thousands of years, just hanging out, waiting for their revenge? Like, leave the planet. What is wrong with you? Be a doer.
He didn't have a ship. He wants to take your bodies and your ships. He can't leave. He got quarantined. And do you know who else gets quarantined during this fight? Me. If we try and do the jump skip before this boss, there is a way to skip many of the enemies. And especially back in the day, these enemies were more annoying. And you jump up this little ledge, and it's a really cool ledge once you get up there. But it's so hard. I have never successfully made this jump in under 20 minutes. I just beg someone to pull me up or tell them, screw you guys, I'm going downstairs and fighting all the puppies and droids down there, and you're coming with me.
All right. So what's up next? Because this guy's already been waiting 1,000 years. Sometimes they don't wait much longer. They get impatient. So what's up next here?
So now here comes the dark side, light side choice. So after we've defeated the professor, if we activate a distress beacon, these archaeologists can be rescued and leave the planet. But they might spread whatever disease they have to the galaxy. Destroying the beacon means they're going to die here with their space plague. Now, here's what's fascinating. Saving them is a light side choice, but that means the sickness might infect the whole galaxy. Is that really light side? I also have an important question. If we're down here, do we not catch the crazy Sith space plague? Are we not allowed to leave either?
Oh, shit. We should have packed our KN95 and our PPE for Aethys.
Cover your nose. That's where the Sith spirit's going.
Oh, man. So to me, is this really a light side choice to do that? You have a lot of interesting information here. That is the Republic side choice. But listen to this. On the Imperial side, it is different. The only information you are given is that something is blocking the door so the Republic archaeologists can't get out. You see they've made a distress beacon, but they're in really bad shape. Such bad shape, in fact, that they can't activate their beacon, darling. So your choice here is to destroy the beacon or activate it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and when we were doing this on Pub's side, you said you didn't remember the part where they were all sick and all that mess. Maybe you were remembering the imp side.
That's so interesting. So it's a similar choice. Do they live or do they die? But it's got an entirely different context. On the Imperial side, it's a little less world spanning, but a little darker. These guys have a distress beacon. Do you want to turn it on for them or just, let them die?
Right. I think because on the imp side, we know that they're not sick. We know that they've just got they've got
Dark
the Vodal
side
crush
cooties.
in them. They've got the
Praise
That's it.
Vodal.
So even on imp side, I activated the beacon because I'm a very nice Sith sometimes. And now we're back out in a big open area where you can stealth just about everything. And you were so happy to see these little snarl roots, or what did you call them?
I love them so much. I call them onions. Whenever I see them, I'm like, onions? Can anyone get the onions? And I love that in these older flashpoints especially, the different crew skills are deeply tied into them. They'll get you shortcuts, or they will get you just fun stuff to unlock. And this is the one that I always regret not having bioanalysis. It's not being able to craft my own reusable med packs, adrenals, and stims. It's the little baby snarl root onion baby. So if you have bioanalysis, you find one of the onions in Aethys, you can right-click it, and then these little guys, these pets show up that'll fight for you. You can heal them or they can heal you. I think both ways around work. And there's a second one you can find as well. It just makes me so happy. There's also an archaeology buff that you can get that's tucked away in a corner. But I care a lot less about that one because who doesn't want a little baby pet following you around from an onion?
Right. Forget the archaeology buff trying to put healers out of a job. Archaeologists. Okay, fine. So that brings us to the beast of Vodal Crush. Oh my, so big. Poops out little baby beast of Vodal Crushes. And again, we fight them. Whatever. Next up, down into another tomb. Maybe I should talk about the boss a little bit. People kind of hold it in the door because it does a knockback.
Huge. He's so big. The first time I saw him, I was like, is it even, are bosses allowed to be this big?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it knocks you back. It stuns, dots on people, poops out ads. Just craziness on this boss. A lot going on, yeah. Yeah, so next up, we are again rewarded for having gathering skills at the next set of doors. You can use archaeology to create a shortcut in this fabulous temple.
One way or the other, with or without your shortcuts, you work your way through the temple full of these champion mob guardians, which are fun to skip through if you have someone who has a stealther. And at the end, you hear someone say, one of my favorite lines in the game, "He will take your bodies and your ships, the Lord of Heart and Eye."
Excuse me? I like my body.
Feel the wrath of Bodal Crash! This fight is really, really cool and very, very thematic. At one point, the boss disappears, this Lord of Heart and Eye, Mr. Bodal Crush, who's trying to take your ships and your bodies. He goes poof and just disappears, and someone in the group gets chased by these fiery balls. Thank you for writing down fiery balls for me to read out in my notes, Mel.
Fiery balls.
There is some kind of stuff that's similar in some operations, but there's no floating fire anywhere else. It's always electricity that's chasing you around.
Yes, I find this really unique. There's nothing like this in Flashpoints or Operations. Like you said, it's all electricity. It's not really fire.
And it's just, like I said, very thematic. It fits in with this temple. You've got all these sconces everywhere. You've got the Lord of Heart and Eye. He's not attacking you with a mechanic. He's attacking you with fire that's going to eat your soul.
Right. And he puts later on, though, he attacks you with a nasty dot. And if you're in master mode, you should you leave that on your person?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So back in the day, the fire really used to scare me. Because there were so many less movement abilities available in the game. You couldn't roll around, you couldn't hold the line, or you couldn't this and that, and you just had to run. So that dot that Mal's talking about, that he puts on you really needs to be cleansed, even in harder modes. I played a veteran mode way back in the day. I was on like a level 17 trooper. This was before we had the dynamic flashpoints where you could go on any roll. I was actually the healer, and I did not have my cleanse yet. So my teammates were dying, and I was like, I'm really sorry, guys. I don't know how it even let me run this flashpoint before I have a key ability to be able to finish this flashpoint. We had to like power heal our way through. It took multiple tries. But one way or the other, in the end of the fight, we defeat the prophet. And he says, in another 1,000 years, we'll be sorry because Bodal Crash will rise again.
I've heard that before. Okay, fine. See you then. Maybe when he hits that 20,000 threshold, he will wait no more.
All right. Calm down there. So we go back to the fleet and talk to Satiel Shan again, if we're playing Republic side. And apparently the ruins were a city built by Bodal Crash, who raised an army to challenge the Emperor's rule. So when you were saying earlier that how bad was Bodal Crash, apparently enough to actually give the Emperor some pause. The people in there were his descendants. Pretty cool. Good thing we stole everything that they had, including their quiche recipe, and killed everyone there before Darth Malgus showed up. Republic side, that is.
Yeah, but don't worry. We're not going to study that shit we just took 20 minutes to bring back, though, because corrupted knowledge is not safe. I'm sure I believe them that they're not going to study this. Right? What do you think?
I'm pretty sure my trooper can't read, so she just hands it off to Satiel Shan and says, like, you deal with this.
Oh my God. But on the imp side, however, we take the artifacts of Bodal Crash, and Malgus says that's all that's left of him, apparently, because his spirit was destroyed by us. So I guess he's not coming back in 1,000 or 20,000 years.
Boo!
Malgus seems very glad that he's gone, and when you press him for more information, apparently Vodal filled Aethys with slaves, and when he was gone, they just kept on keeping on.
Wait, so did Darth Malgus just inherit a planet full of slaves mining away and stuff on Aethys?
I don't really know what they're gonna do
win
with
for
that.
the Empire, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay, well, what is he doing with the artifacts is the question of the day. So that's up to the Dark Council. Malgus apparently wants to see Vodal's entire legacy destroyed and his name erased from all history. Is Bodal Crash secretly Darth Null? Malgus says, there's no place for a Sith Lord who places themselves above the Empire, not among the living or the dead.
And my Sith warrior said, arrogance is never lacking in men of ambition, living or dead. Just some really good writing here, in my opinion, compared to the Republic side. I think I'm biased.
Definitely a lot more interesting. The Republic has a habit of trying to contain dark knowledge, though, so it could be just them trying to, they don't want you to talk about it, just trying to shut it down, versus the Empire is like, this is our bread and butter. We can have a little bit of a chat about it.
Right. You know what's not biased, though? The news. You heard it here last.
if you're watching this episode when it comes out. You have just missed out on the GRE event, and the Nightlife event is all finished up. We'll see you next year. We are waiting for news about update 7.1.1, which will include the Galactic Seasons Season 3, as well as a huge amount of class changes that we've been keeping our eye on the forums. Coming up later in the month, the Pirate Incursion event on Dantooine will take place September 20th through September 27th.
And that's it. That's it for our discussion today about sound effects. I loved it.
Yeah, thanks so much for listening to us yak about our favorite sounds in the game. And like we said, we'd love to hear what yours are.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye. You've been listening to the Starforge podcast with Scya and Mal. We know you have your choice of podcasts, and you chose the right one. New episodes drop every Friday on Google and Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Swtorista's YouTube channel, and just about every other podcast platform in existence. For show notes, pictures, and other information, visit starforgepodcast.com. Hit us up on Twitter at StarforgeCast. We love hearing from you. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you all next week.
I am recording.
I'm recording. Oh, yeah.
She's recording.
I'm
For a good time. For a good time call.
No, please don't. That's
STAR Forge Podcast. We don't have a
Love it.
number.
We don't. It's just a Discord. That's it.
1-881-999.